Well, good evening, everyone. It's 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Council, Municipality of Swan Valley West, held in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, this 14th day of May, 2024 at 7 p.m. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Bill Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, Carrie Blosha, Kushniryk, McGregor, and Byron Zbirun. Our interim CAO, Pat Ellingson, is here, and introducing for the first time, Kristi Ronnquist is here too as our assistant CAO. Jeremy Bergen's here this evening as our videographer, and we have some folks in the gallery and some folks on the phone line. We'll head to 1.2, Notice of Absence. Be it resolved that the Notice of Absence submitted by Councillor Neely regarding the regular meeting of Council held this 14th day of May 2024 shall be accepted as received. Is there a mover? Councillor Zbirun, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Blosha. Any discussion? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. Into number 2 we go, adopting the agenda. Be it resolved the agenda for the regular meeting of Council held this 14th day of May 2024 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk. Any changes or additions anyone would like to the agenda tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favour? That too is carried. Set to number 3. Be resolved the minutes of the regular council meeting held April 23rd, 2024 be adopted as presented. Someone wish to move that? Councillor Kushniryk, and a seconder, please. Councillor Zbirun. Copy of the minutes are attached to the agenda for councillors and on the public view if you happen to be following along on the website. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Does anyone want more time to look at them? Did anyone notice any errors or omissions that should be corrected? You're a quiet bunch tonight. Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. We do have a delegation night scheduled for 7:15, but if council is okay with it, I think we'll just go straight to it. That pleases the crowd here. So we welcome the Kenville Hall Board. So great to see you folks. And before you start, thank you for all you've done there. I know it's been a long road of working on stuff there. It's been so good to have somebody dealing with that. If you want to move up closer, you can. If you want to stay there, you're welcome to it as well.
This is good here, thank you.
You know, only Brian bites. That's why we put him at the end.
No, we did get some information finally from the insurance company. He sent me an email yesterday with some figures for the first time, so we do have some numbers to play with. But still, even the numbers he sent, this is not written in stone yet because he doesn't have his second bidder or whatever to do it. But the total replacement cost is going to be $371,648, plus our share of the rafters, which we have to add to that, which is $77,884, which works out to over $400,000 to put a new roof on, which seems high to me, astronomical actually.
The building for that, not.
Pardon me?
You could build a building for that,
Well,
not.
that's what I was thinking, like, why put a roof on, put a new building in
Yeah.
or whatever, yeah. And if we decided to go with a cash settlement, it would be $220,207. So there is options one way or the other to go. We haven't made up our mind what we want to do with that yet. They're big numbers. But there are, like, the RM owns the land. Apparently we own the building. I'm not sure even how that works. Because you insure it, so do we own the building or do you own the building?
We do, because we get our insurance through the municipality because we get a better rate because it goes through the Manitoba Municipal.
Okay. So the building is ours.
I take no position on that because I have no idea. But there's some place there must be an agreement because normally when we own the land, we also own the building. Like for every other hall, usually it's both, but it could well be that something was worked out, right?
I don't know.
Because at some point we wouldn't have owned the land. It would
Yes,
have been transferred to us to save the taxes.
I think that's
so-
what happened, yes, but
Someplace, somewhere, someone probably knows the story of how that worked. Because if you
Yes.
owned the building, you would have to pay taxes
so
on
we
the
might
building.
have to go to Birchwood to find out.
Well, it's possible.
So-
There's a lot of stuff in that vault. Looking for it can take a while. Technically, like if you did own the building, you'd be getting a tax bill for the building.
Okay.
Because some places that is the case where they own the building, so they pay for the tax on the building and we pay for the tax on the
Are you
land.
getting one?
Yes,
We get it,
We
tax
were
bill,
with the
yeah, we've
bank.
been paying.
Okay, so yeah, that would be a good sign that,
Like the building was built with donations and whatever's from the community, so I'm assuming that they owned it at one time.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But my understanding is if there is, if and when this check comes, it will be made out to the RN. Is
Yeah.
that true?
it always is because the insurance is in our name.
Okay.
And so even like the Thunderhill Ski Club, which is probably, very easily separate, if there's a settlement for them, it comes to us and then it has to be passed
So do we
along.
just give you the keys and you go ahead and do whatever you want?
It's always an option you have. Not necessarily the preferred option.
No.
And it's a speech I gave everywhere. Like I was in the Durban Hall AGM a couple weeks back, and I said the same thing to them. Like we love to have people look after halls because we probably don't do as good a job as local people do, right?
No.
If someone says to us, "Here's a hall," well, look how it went in Alpine. We're not the best people necessarily to look after. Doesn't mean we won't. We would try. I think everybody here is of the opinion we want to look after and try, but it's always better if someone
Yeah.
that, wants to be there and wants to do it, if there's a hall board. Rather than at council level, us saying to Public Works, well, in your spare time, look after that hall. Yeah,
The only trouble is that there's less and less people out in the countryside, and it's not used near what it used to be, so. And it's hard to find people to go on the board to run. That's,
if this money to fix it is spent, does that fix the other part of the roof that's starting to leak, or is this just the main part?
I think that, well, no, there's actually a second thing on here, we're not sure yet. I'd have to talk to him about it.
There's one line, we want to,
You can have it in there, yeah.
there's one line that says roof hall and roof main.
So we don't know. if
So there's a
that-
main roof, original, and then the roof on the north side.
So I don't know if he's meaning they would have to, well, they have to, when they do it, they have to take part of that lean-to roof off. Because it is tag rated.
There's an overlap. Yeah, there's an overlap.
Okay, yeah, so,
And you just got these numbers
Yes,
Yeah.
yesterday, so we haven't questioned or looked at them.
or have a meeting with the other members of the whole board.
And how long do you have to decide what you're gonna do? Like, there must be a clause in there somewhere that says you have a window
Do you know?
to decide.
He said
You don't wanna
that-
miss that window is what I mean.
He wanted to have it completed this summer. However, he's the one, it's in his court because he's trying to get the second
Okay, so
estimate on it and hasn't.
because
done so.
sometimes it'll say like you need to decide if you're taking this cash settlement or if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
doing this by a certain date. And you don't wanna miss that date, cause
No. But he needs his second estimate even before he can make a decision too. so-
yeah, so I just don't want you to miss a
Yeah.
date that,
Well, September is, I think, is the cutoff, like that would be our 2 years since the claim went in, or whatever, but that's what
Oh,
it's
okay.
fighting on.
yeah, so then
Yeah.
you've still got a little bit of,
And actually, he's very receptive. Like, and
Mhm.
he's a really easy person to get along with and talk to. And so we've got a good rapport with him.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it's just that the information just came yesterday, so
yeah, so you, it's.
really can't.
no.
When you're talking receptive, you're talking about the adjuster.
Yeah.
So do you have a contractor lined up?
He's
He's the one doing all
doing
that.
all that, yeah.
Okay.
And he can't get a second quote, because nobody wants to come.
Just
Yeah.
whenever.
to be working
Yep.
on the roof.
So we'll be looking to any suggestions or options or whatever before we call another hall board meeting.
what can you tell us, like I know the usage numbers weren't that high before COVID.
No,
What would you like in the perfect world, if this thing just gets fixed? What do you think the future holds?
I think we would struggle to keep the hydro on.
Struggle.
To keep the hydro on.
What's it cost to run a year? If you have
hydros
hydros
are
or,
anywhere from 6 to 4, depending on the winter or whatever.
We've been blessed with 2
Easy
mild
winters,
winters,
yeah.
and that's why we've been managing to keep our heads above the water.
So like a normal winter would be more like 6,000?
Yeah, yeah. Then our insurance policy is 4,000.
So do you go for grants and stuff for,
We get one from you guys.
We actually did a lot of fundraising,
Yeah.
supper,
We do.
or spring supper and stuff, we managed to cover things with that.
Rental only covers a quarter of the cost. There's just not enough of it
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
It just, so you have to do the rest, has to be fundraising.
yeah?
Your budget, when it's running, is around 20,000, 23,000 for the year.
And many times, you know, if you have dances or something, you end up spending more with your repairs than what the actual rental cost was for the person, so they do turn out to be very cost effective to rent it out for dances or weddings or whatever.
No, usage is way down from what it was, yeah, say 20 years ago. We used to run bingos and there were seniors and square dancing.
Baby showers, wedding showers,
Yeah, nobody done
funeral
babies anymore.
lunches.
I can't speak for these folks, but like, my preference is to fix it. You know, I don't want to tear a hall down in Kenville, I don't think anybody does, right? And if you do the cash value thing, we tear a hall down, then what's next? I'd far rather see it fixed. But we have to make some sort of argument that it's the right idea too.
Like we had a public meeting and 20 people showed up and we asked for more people to help with it and this is it so far, so
Nobody wants to step up and
help, that's.
It's just that good that yous are all doing this, but like you were saying, 20 years that things have changed, what's gonna be like in 15 years from now?
That's right.
Like us, like we, this newer generation, the younger
Yeah.
generation, you know,
Yeah.
do they get involved with fundraising?
Yeah.
No,
how long have you been president?
It's a life sentence.
Yeah.
I'll order it for life.
Can't find anyone to replace.
Either you die or you move away.
Yeah.
I've tried to.
Even sometimes that doesn't work.
So I guess I'll turn the question on you, because ultimately the $78,000 of your share, you don't have that.
No.
So we need to write a check for it. So would you be comfortable saying to people, let's spend $78,000 of municipal money on this? Or would you say, whoa, you guys are nuts?
Personally, for me, I'm only speaking for me, there's no return on investment on that money.
It's better to spend it on gravel.
You may as well spend it on gravel. I don't like saying it either.
I know, because well, that's
Well, it's
not
'cause
what
it's
anyone
been
wants to do,
there for
right?
Right. But somewhere along the line, like reality has to set into, I think.
Like if you can't get anybody to help you, I mean, you could have a new building there and it could be
I
the
knew, you
same.
you could plunk a brand new building on that site tomorrow, and our issues would still be the same. Taxes, hydro, and
Water.
And
Well, our
volunteers.
water too, we have to have our water full.
So is there anything else that can be done with the building? If we fixed it, could it become something else?
oh, well, okay, I don't know.
You know, like, I'm thinking it's a really, really big house, but it's not necessarily shaped like a house, but you know, $78,000, you know, if we fixed it and sold it, once it was good, like, you know, is there something we could do that would
Yeah,
make sense that way, right? Because you could sell it for $100,000, and we still have something in Kenville, and we start generating some tax money on it, you know, I'm just looking for options. Because I hate tearing it down. Councillor Burick?
But isn't there a payout, you said, of 220 some thousand?
Yeah,
Payout?
there is.
yeah.
So I mean, are you gonna get 200,000 for it?
But we don't necessarily get that.
No,
Then
I'm just saying,
right?
they get 200,000 as a building. as to
So what would
sell.
you do if you took the payout? What would be the
Yeah.
plan there?
Clean up and,
Yeah, it's actually a memorial hall, it was built in honor of the veterans, so we'd have to put something there, a marker or a cenotaph or something.
turn it into a green, I think turn it into a green space.
A
Yeah,
green
No.
space, yeah.
You
I
know,
like that idea.
and
With some
a
benches
cenotaph.
and
Yeah,
some-
benches. and-
Yeah.
And in my own head, sorry, I would like to explore options. Bill, at one time we talked possibly museum.
Hmm.
Now, we haven't been able to talk to anyone because we had no figures or anything.
So I don't know how much the group knows about what was talked about at the museum, but I can fill in some
No, I'm
details there.
sorry,
'Cause
I'm talking to you.
Well, I sit on the museum board, if I ever show up. They put their meetings on Tuesday nights now, so I haven't been there for a year, but
In my perfect world, I would love to see it go to the museum. They look after their buildings so well. If they could use it, we would have the cash, if we took a cash payout, to move it there. They have the expertise to fix up these buildings and whatnot, and maybe they could save it. It would still be the Kenville Memorial Hall. Our elders would love it, and we would have a cenotaph where we are, you know. It's
That's
just an
a good-
option.
Like you're saying more of the whole building or just parts of it? Because I heard somewhere, I don't know if we discussed it here, that the stage
Yeah, we
was,
did.
so
We did the stage or something.
the
they were
stage
talking
is
about.
something that they want to maybe preserve or keep as
It's
a
historical building.
memorial thing. So I mean, there's stuff that they'd be able to preserve.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of paraphernalia on the walls and
Yeah.
stuff to do with the Legion. It was built in 49,
46.
46, no, I knew it was 47. And Gus Zander, he's from Benito, he did the floor, and he started at the middle of the floor, and and it goes all the way out, and it's just perfect for dancing on. That's what everyone talked
Going
about.
around.
Yeah,
The follow boards,
yeah, yeah.
square dance.
So it's a good floor, but I don't know if it's gonna last much longer, but.
it's a discussion that we were having, just to make sure everybody's up to speed on what was talked about over at the museum a little bit, was the idea of the stage. So in the
Yeah.
museum hall now, they only have a portable stage.
Yeah,
And then they have the woodworking in the back, and the discussion has been to change it to a permanent stage there. So that back area would become washrooms and then also a stage. And the talk was, well, what if we moved the stage from the Kenville Hall, if it's to be torn down? You know, if it's not torn down, it stays in Kenville. But if the hall isn't to be there, reconstruct the stage into the hall in Swan River. And there'd obviously, you would take it apart and you'd have to do some new structure to it, but then put this facing back on, because in the back, there's all that writing on it, and all those inscriptions.
Well,
But,
many
you know,
concerts
there's not
out
many
there.
places left that have the doors in the back, and rebuild it like that at the museum, so that it was the authentic Kenville Hall stage. And then just, you know, on the side of it, would go to the washrooms at the museum, but otherwise the stage would be there.
Basically, that's what most of the inquiries we've had is for salvage.
Yeah.
No, not a lot of interest in saving it or whatever, but there's been lots of people, well, if you're gonna tear it down, I like the floor or this and that. But
So if we go the route of taking cash payout and tearing this thing down, do you want to do that, or do you want to turn the keys into us and say, we had a good time, figure this out?
that
Did you guys bring your keys?
I don't know, we'd have to discuss that.
Yeah, it would be something to discuss, right? Like,
Yeah.
you want to find
This
contractors
is
or
all
such,
too
or,
new, this
Yeah.
information that
As
was
long
on.
as we somehow, if we could save some of that money to help us redo the cenotaph, I would be in favor of you taking over or whatever, it doesn't matter.
how
We've
much
had
do
lots of
you,
farmers willing to come in and tear it down,
it's nice that volunteers it.
because they all own backhoes now.
Yeah,
But I don't know, I have no idea what it would cost to demolish it and move it.
well, certainly, there needs to be another one of those community meetings.
Yeah,
I'd like to be invited if you could, I'd like to come to that.
okay.
And,
Well, I used to put it on the Kenville group, and Brad and RJ, you're both belong to that group. So, but I'll make sure you get a notice too.
yeah.
When
and
we
then-
decide, I put it on there so that we get it out to as many residents, current or past residents, because they're all coming back at us.
And I think realistically, when you're talking that right in the notice, you should put, to save this thing, we need $80,000. And if somebody says, you know what, this means $80,000 to me, here's a check. It's a totally different conversation.
That's right.
Because if the hall was fixed and we're just looking at maintaining it, that's a different thing than putting $80,000 in to fix it.
Don't keep in mind that it has never been condemned or.
No, it's not actually,
It's not that bad yet.
no.
But it's just that we didn't want to take any chances
Mhm.
till we knew what was going on, and, you know, we're just still getting information, so.
And if they make checks payable to you, for the Kenville Hall and they get a tax
Yeah.
receipt, right? For
Okay. Anything else you want to share tonight?
Well, I think there's some conversations to be had around the valley and to different people, and
Mhm.
when we get all our information together too. Because if he's gonna get another bidder,
Yeah. He said these figures aren't written in stone,
Yeah.
but I can't see them going down myself.
It's not gonna get any worse,
No.
because at least he has this. If the other one comes in higher, the only thing that could happen is a little lower, but it's not gonna be much
No.
lower. Okay. Well, again, I do want to thank you for everything you've done. Like, I've been following along. I've been to the one meeting, and it's been a tough go.
yes,
I
we have a
want
lot of people to answer to, a lot of elderly people who really like the hall.
That are still alive.
They're still alive, they're wondering what's gonna happen, and what are we doing about it, and, you know, a lot of interest in it, but those are the people that are not able to help us out, so.
But
Well.
we deal with donations, I don't know.
and it's, Winkler went through that with the water tower, right? Where they said it didn't make money to put a bunch of municipal dollars. It makes sense to put municipal money into it, right? Just to put 200,000, and they said, listen, if someone really feels that strongly, write us a check for $200,000. We'll keep the water tower. Otherwise,
What happened?
they tore it down. But the offer was made. Nobody had the
Yeah, yeah,
opportunity to
yeah.
say after, oh, gee, I would have.
Yeah,
They put it out there, they said, this is what has to happen to save it. If that doesn't happen, we can't save it. And then nobody can come back after and say, well, why'd you tear it down? Everybody had a chance. If you felt that strongly, write the check.
Well, we can have a public meeting, but we can also, I can put it on our webpage
Yep.
or our Facebook page, or whatever, and just put on there, if you are wanting to save it, like there's a lot of people that come from Kenville that still live
Mhm.
around in different areas that belong to the group, so. And I've had people come to me and say, we would like to help out, so we'll see. Till the cash is in hand, it's just hearsay.
And it might just postpone it 10 years down the road, but at least we got 10 more years. If somebody did come
We were just
forward.
talking on the way in here, and he said that there was a motion on the table at one of the board meetings of the Kenville Hall in 1996, whether they should close or not. That was 1996.
It got extended
So
quite a
we
while.
kept it going for a
Yeah.
while. It didn't pass.
No.
No.
To go short.
Yeah,
Anybody-
because that's the whole problem, you can't get people to go on board, so it's the same ones, right?
Any other questions from council before we say goodbye?
We have a lot of meetings to hold, I guess. A lot of discussions and
Yeah.
decisions to make by your board, and then bring them back to us.
Mhm.
We can do that.
Yeah, once it's finalized, we'll let you know what the final
Yeah.
numbers are, and then if we want to have another meeting, we can do that.
Perfect.
Okay? Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
Let's move to number 5, Public Works Report. So as you know, we don't currently have a lead hand. They departed May 10th. So this is what I have been involved in the last little while, as far as what Public Works is up to. Graveling's ongoing in Area 1 and 2. Extensive progress in Area 1. Area 2 has been a lot slower. Staff are working with the vendor to correct some deficiencies that are happening in Area 2 to try and get that back on track. The GPS tracking of gravel's working well. It's in 8 pieces of equipment right now. And specifically to that, we have seen one bill come in from one vendor already, and so it was reconciled with the GPS to make sure that what was on the bill was actually what happened, which was good, and it was within about 15 minutes or so, so it worked out well. But we're going to keep doing that as those bills come and just approve them one at a time to make sure that the work was done. Been playing catch up in some areas due to a missing staff member. That primarily relates to wards 1 and 2, but there was some time taken from wards 4, 5, and 6 and put into ward 1 to try and catch it up a bit, so that made ward 5 and 6 a little bit further behind too. So just having that one operator missing has been a bit of trouble, but as council knows, we're working on that. Some beaver dams have been taken care of here in the last couple of days that were set to cause some trouble. And there's been some rough spots in the roads being looked after. Primarily, they're putting 1.5 inch gravel right now into those little frost boils that they're finding to try and firm them up a little bit. If that doesn't work, we'll have to go back and do something else to them, but most of them last year firmed up with 1.5 inches. So that's what they're working on. Earlier today, there were some water concerns that occurred in Benito relating to supply. So further troubleshooting will be done the next day or two, but it's possible that well 2 has failed. We are creating water, but not at the normal volume we make it. So we did some troubleshooting today. I'm gonna do a little bit more tomorrow morning on that to nail down exactly what the issue is. If it is the pump failed, we'll have well service folks out shortly to fix or replace the pump, depending on what they find when they lift it from the well. We've applied some calcium to Pioneer Road. That's the only location so far that has had calcium applied. We've got an update coming, I believe, later on about dust control. Extensive work was done to the Sarah Lake Hall Road. So that's not only the Sarah Lake portion, but also the portion of 198 and 166. Yeah, about 166. That goes up what would be called normally Cemetery Road. So we've been on there some. We need to discuss that more later on in the meeting if we're going to do anything different there. We do have our own trucks hauling gravel, so it's not just vendors. Primarily, we've been hauling with the semi of ours. So each hour we haul saves about $100 by the time we pay what we would pay to run the truck, but then save paying somebody else for it. So it does get us a little further on our gravel budget. Some prep work's underway in Benito. We had a staff member out there just taking a look at what needs to be done with a goal to getting more into that next week to be ready to do some mowing and such there. That's all I have for Public Works report tonight. As I noted, that was prepared here, not by actually somebody in Public Works. So it's just the stuff that I've touched with it in the last few days. Let us move to 6.1 payroll checks. We're doing things a little out of order here tonight, but there's a reason for that. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 398 to 411, the amount of $20,689.54, and check number 19677, the amount of $682.08. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. Copy of the payroll checks is attached privately to the agenda for council to review. Does anyone have any questions or comments they want to make there? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 6.2 CRA Shortfall. So attached to the agenda is a notice from the Canada Revenue Agency demanding payment of $80,368.38 for outstanding fees in the 2023 taxation year. A little better summary of it's attached as the second page, showing those fees to relate to CPP contributions, EI premiums, and income tax deducted. And then the third page is probably the one you're most interested in. It's a bit of an explainer that's been prepared by staff. So early in the year, it was discovered that the Paymate program was not properly submitting the amounts to the government for what was owed for taxes deducted, CPP and EI. The numbers were lower than they should have been. And that related to some of the employees not having been set up correctly and some of the coding not done out of the program. So at that time, staff proceeded on to calculate manually the amount that should be submitted to the government. So the amount being deducted from the employees was correct, but the reporting of it was where the problems came into. So you'll see the summary here for the 12 months of what was actually deducted from the employees in theory. They're still checking that a little bit, but from what I gather, the money that should have come off employee paychecks did come off of employee paychecks, but then instead of being remitted to the government, a portion of it was held back accidentally. Throughout the whole year, that portion is $77,332.02. So the reason that the demand is for slightly more relates to the accounting error on council pay that was made last year. And that payment was made already that should have totaled the full $80,000, but when it was made in the 2024 year, and CRA didn't flag it correctly for that. So it didn't get applied to that $80,000 number. So the solution for that portion is that some of that money will be moved back. So we'll pay the 80, we'll short pay the 2024 number that had the extra in it and get back to even with them. But the practical upshot is it appears we do owe the CRA a little over $80,000, which is due and collecting interest, plus penalties. So later in the general checks, there's a check prepared for the full amount. Questions, discussion? Last chance. If not, we can always bring up more of that in camera if we need to. 6.3 payroll changes. So the news keeps getting more interesting as the night goes on. I promise it gets more and more fun. The Swan Valley Credit Union has advised us of changes to the process for paying employees. Currently, and for a few more days, we're able to submit the payment one day ahead of the scheduled payday. So if, for example, payday is on the 15th, tomorrow, we're able to submit by noon today the amount of money we wish to pay the employees. However, there's strong security concerns coming from the credit union because with such a short window, should somebody get into anyone's account and submit a false payment request, it would be very hard to bring it back because there's only a couple hours. They're requesting that window now be extended to 3 to 4 days, which means we have to commit 4 days ahead to how much to pay the employees. So there's been a long-running issue where we issue pay for tomorrow. Already all the hour sheets have to be in a couple days ahead. So employees are left guessing at what their hours are for the last couple days. They write them down, but then if something happens, if they worked more or for some reason worked less, we have to go back and redo that payroll a second time. To expand that window to 4 days to the credit union would bring us to over a week of guessing from the employees for how long they would have to guess what their hours might be the whole next week. So we looked for a different solution, and what we found is to delay payroll processing by 2 weeks. So we've informed the staff that starting with this pay period, we will be processing 2 weeks behind. So the hours they worked from the 1st to the 15th will be paid at the end of the month. The hours they worked from the 16th to the end of the month will be paid on the following 15th. As you can imagine, that would create substantial hardship for the staff because they expect that money. So for all current staff, we have issued for tomorrow an advance payment roughly equal to what they normally would be paid. That advance is noted in their file, and when they leave employment, that advance will be paid back from their final paycheck. But they will get a lump sum advance tomorrow of approximately the right amount to the nearest $100. Then they'll be paid at the end of the month for what they were owed. So we'll always be holding 2 weeks of their pay. Any new employees will start with the new system where they're always 2 weeks behind with their own advance. But it keeps us from having anybody not having money they expected to make their payments. It seemed to be the fairest solution, and about the only one that keeps us from going totally insane in the office. Because otherwise we're guessing a week of hours each time. That's just nuts. The good news is this will give us much more time to be accurate and to not rush. So the hours now are due tomorrow, or on the 16th. So what's submitted will be the final and full hours without any revisions being needed. And that gives Lois a little over a week to process payroll and have it submitted to the bank. So it should work better. I've spoken to most of the staff, the ones I haven't spoken to, a supervisor's spoken to, and they seem to be fine with it. They understand the process, so it looks like it's going to go well. In the end, the risk we have is we could be out $20 or $30 years from now when they leave the employment. Chances are we wouldn't, because pretty much everybody would have some holiday time that would be paid out. So for the most part, we should be risk-free on it. Any questions from anybody on that? Let's go to 6.4, general checks. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 19677 to 19716 and direct payment of $351.53, the amount of $328,609.68. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick wants to spend some money tonight. Anyone to second the resolution? Councillor Zbirun. So a copy of the check summary is attached. I have the checks and the invoices here. Let's open the floor to questions. Who wants to go first? Councillor Blosha?
Yeah, I got a couple, but just give me a second.
Okay.
Oops, and I lost.
While you're thinking about it, I'll note the Town of Swan River check because it's a bit of interest. That one includes the dump fees for March. So that is getting, the garbage from Bozeman being left in the Swan River landfill. So $157, which isn't that particularly bad for 4 runs there. So it seems to be quite economical running our own truck to do that particular haul.
19696, I believe it is.
696. Benito Flowers.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
So
Probably weren't
these-
spending that much
That's
again.
flowers, sorry.
I know, it's $700 worth of flowers.
They're not cheap.
We were just about 1,200 last year.
I know, but I mean, it's still, we got the pots, so we shouldn't be.
So, 4 gallon annuals, 4 6-pack flowers, 2 4.5 annuals, 2 gallons, 16 4.5, 18 4.5. There's no pots on here.
Well, I know,
It looks to
because
be
they're
all
planting
just
in the
annual
pots we
flowers.
already owned.
Yeah. And what was it last year, about 1,200?
It was about 1,200.
But they planted them for us. What was the extra cost, remember?
Yes.
Yes, that was the extra cost. This is still the same kind of cost. Just saying.
But
These are some for Durban as well,
this is all of them.
and
Durban,
Kenville?
Kenville,
Okay, it just says Benito, that's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, it's just
It's all
lumped under,
lumped in, it's all
but
lumped into one.
everything done. But, yeah, we're not paying the cost of having them do it.
I'm just asking the question, because it seems like. Okay, that was it for that one.
Okay, any more?
I got another one. I think that the other one was answered because it was the shortfall,
Oh, okay, yeah.
the $80,000. I was like, what is that? I think that was it for me.
You'll notice the direct payment one noted there. That is the beginning of having some of these pre-authorized, so that's Westman Communications. So they're paid automatically now instead of us having to get a check ready and get it there in time to make sure we avoid interest. So over time, the intention is for Bell MTS to become like that as well, so that it draws out of the account rather than us trying to beat them there with a check. Anybody else with questions on checks? Going once, going twice. Does anyone need more time?
No.
Okay. With that, we'll call the question on the resolution. Those in favor? That is carried. Staying with payroll, let's talk indemnities. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Indemnities for April 2024, number 4577 to 4585, the amount of $13,258.45. Is there a mover? Councillor, thank you. Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution, please. Councillor McGregor. Copies of the indemnity sheets are attached on the public view so everyone can take a look if they're so inclined. Is there any questions, comments, concerns from council tonight? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 6-6. So let's take a look at this. We do have a resolution, so I guess we'll start with the resolution. Be it resolved, the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby receives the bank reconciliation of financial statement for the period ending December 31st, 2023 as presented. Is there a mover? You guys get Councillor Burick and Councillor Zbirun. Two at the end of the table. So a bunch of stuff attached here. Let's run through some of it. So bank reconciliations. You'll notice this looks very different now. This is bank reconciliations done through Munisoft. So these are done in the actual accounting software. Previous to this, the only bank recs we ever saw were done in Excel and weren't actually forced to bounce. So this one must bounce or it won't print it. So you'll see here a whole list of things, and what you're seeing here is what a bank rec should look like. So it's showing you things, deposits that are being made. It's also showing you payments that have been made but haven't been cashed yet. So all of that, and then it brings you down to what the actual adjusted bank balance is. So it's starting out with a bank balance of $3.5 million, and after adjustments, 1.597 is what's actually available in the account for spending that hasn't been somewhat committed. This will get a much shorter list as time goes on. A lot of these checks relate to being the end of December, and they just hadn't cleared yet. But the earlier ones represent some accounting difficulties that are still being sorted out for exactly what happened. One of them, for example, number 10 there, the debenture payment for the Burnside Bridge. The check was written, but there's some question about which account it was supposed to be assigned to, so it's just sort of in that pending status right now. But the rec is working fairly well. They reconciled all of 2023 to the end of it, so it's done now until the end of 2023. And monthly reconciliations will be forthcoming very shortly. I think they may actually be some of them done. They just weren't presented tonight to try and keep this a little shorter. But the month by months will be on their way soon. Then we get into more interesting stuff. So there's some disclosure pieces here for people listening at home that will probably be of interest, but also very much of interest for council. So an income statement is attached. It's the second attachment, and what this shows, or is supposed to show, is all the income and all the expenses in 2023. So if you fast forward very much to the end, it suggests we have a surplus of $583,000. But we've been struggling with trying to find accurate numbers, and that isn't exactly true. So what's been discovered is several things are not, and have not been for many years, properly showing as revenue and expenses. So a couple examples of that. The first one relates to the insurance that council pays each year. So last year the insurance was around $160,000, but there was no expense item for insurance until earlier today when it was created. It had been posted to an account that's not normally reviewed by council and isn't normally seen as part of budgeting. So in essence, last year the insurance had never been budgeted for. And it hadn't been for several years prior to that either. So every time insurance was paid, it didn't show as an expense either until the auditors did their auditing, which was unfortunate because it makes it very hard for council to properly figure out what's come in and what's gone out and what money's still available in the budget when things aren't appearing. A flip side to that, for a place like the Historical Museum, we resell insurance to them, same as the Kenville Hall Board. That income was not showing as revenue to the municipality. It was being squirreled away in a different section. And there's been a substantial number of things that's been happening to. One of that is the school division levies, which arguably probably should be done that way because it really isn't revenue to us and it's not really an expense, it's just collected on their behalf. However, it was showing as an expense to us, but there was no revenue coming in. So at one point this was showing a $3.7 million surplus. Even though that hadn't actually happened. So this is much more accurate, but it is not all the way accurate. And as you can guess, we just spent $80,000 paying for something that should have been out of that surplus last year. So the belief is still that the surplus is smaller than that. There'll be some more work done on the 23 yet, but the rest of it's not going to be caught until the audit's complete to get us a final number on that. But certainly now that we're aware of some of those things and what's been happening, and it's certainly not a short-term thing. This goes back at least the 6 years I've been here with the insurance. We're taking steps to correct that. So the insurance this year will be properly showing the expenses, the revenue will show as well. And even such things, another one of them was payroll deductions. So we have an employer share of CPP that we're responsible for paying. But until now, that wasn't being posted properly as an expense. So while the money was leaving the account, it wasn't showing up as something in our payroll lines. So it would look like we were $30,000 under budget, even though we'd spent the budget. So that all being corrected is going to certainly make things a lot easier for paying attention to. So if we're as accurate as it is, it's certainly a lot closer than it was a few weeks ago when we were doing budgeting. It's showing on the one page here a surplus of $583,000. So let's take the 80 off, call it $500,000. So still there, we're looking at that $250,000. That was the additional money we hadn't expected last year from the one grant, and then the additional $223,000 that was received from taxes that were added to the roll relating to some properties that were built and constructed. So it's getting to make sense. The third item on the list is the December 2023 expenses. So this is a budget summary report. This shows all of the expenses to the end of 2023 that were charged to the year. It shows a fairly accurate budgeted amount now as well for what the budget was actually passed last year as saying. And it shows line by line here if we overspent or underspent for each and every item. So this is a report more similar to what we've been seeing, and this is updated now to the end of the year. So if we follow through all of this, in that particular report, it suggests that we had $169,000 underspent. That's probably fairly close to accurate too, because those numbers kind of work in with each other with the payroll deductions not being showing there properly. We're really close to those numbers jiving, because this only shows the expenditures, not the income that was bonus income last year. So we're probably closing in on somewhere between $400,000 or $500,000 being the accurate surplus last year. A second expense report is attached. It's dated for May 31st, even though it's not quite the 31st. That includes all checks up to and including what we just approved a few moments ago. So this is also the correct budgeted numbers, assuming it passes tonight. That's what's been put in here. So each line should now contain exactly what council agreed to have, and does accurately show to tonight how much money has been spent on each line item so far. So that's provided for council, and we'll start seeing those, if not every meeting, every once a month, but we may well see those each meeting, just to keep up a little easier on exactly what we're spending. So it will show us very clearly what has been expended on each item and where we're at with the budget being very correct. To this, it shows expenditures so far this year of about $641,000. So obviously there's a long way to go yet, but the year is still young. Final thing that's attached is the 2023 balance sheet. This one, I don't know how useful it will be to council. It shows us the actual balancing, and probably an accountant would look at this a little more, but it shows us the taxes that are outstanding still as of the end of December, the cash that was deposited, the different transfers to and from different reserve accounts, what's due to them, what's, some of them are underfunded, so the reserve might technically hold $50,000, but the bank account only has 10 in it. So this would show you that there's a portion of that reserve that's owed to it by the general fund. It also gets into some of the accrual basis accounting we have to do when we report at the year end for example, our computers, how much the value is left on them. Shows us as well the amortization on the roads, the bridges, all those numbers that don't generally show in those cash-based reports we look at. Again, I don't know if anything in there is going to be like, oh gee, I'm glad we know this, but the numbers are there so you can see it, and everybody out in the community can see it as well, to see how 2023 went. Does anyone have questions on any of that stuff? I know it's a lot of material, but I thought it was important we get it here and get it posted so everyone can see it and go through it and be able to keep up on what we're doing here. I see a few people still reading through it, so I'll give you another minute.
A lot of numbers,
Yes.
boy.
You're always welcome. If you have questions, ask Lois. She'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. Her door is always open, and, well, except when she closes it, but usually it's a good reason she closes it. But she'd be more than happy for any of you that want to ask her stuff about it or get more details. You can also see, say for example, on a line item, we can print out a report that shows you every single thing that was spent in it. We don't generally post those publicly because some of them contain some confidential information of personal names, but certainly as a council member, you're welcome to see it. If you want to talk to about it, she can show it to you on screen or something, if there's anything that you want to see more about. Do we want to spend more time here, or shall we move on?
Move on.
Okay, we'll keep going. 7.1, the RCMP April report. Be resolved, the RCMP report for April 2024 be accepted as received. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk and McGregor. Copy of the report is attached. A total of 87 calls for service have been reported in Swan Valley West. Provincial traffic offenses account for 26 of that. So I should say there's 87 of the one, and there's 100 on the other sheet. So there's, depending on which type of offense, I guess they're grouped a little separately. Certainly Oh, yes, they're by each, that's so far this year. And then they're grouped by months as well. Does anyone have any questions on that report? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 7.2, Parkland District Meeting, June 25th, 2024. That meeting is being held in Swan River. It's likely the only time this term that the AMM will come to Swan River. It certainly would be good to see everybody there. I think registration is $30 or some silly thing. So if you're going, if you could please indicate to the CAO that you'll be attending, we'll make sure you get registered. There has been a committee struck, for municipality committee to organize that AMM. And planning is ongoing for it. So the thought process, while Swan River is technically hosting, we want to showcase the entire valley. So we're working on some displays and some local aspects of it to kind of impress the municipal leaders. We're expecting about 80 people to be in town from various different municipalities. So there's a little bit of video being done to sort of show off some of the attractions of the valley. There's also a taste of the valley, what to call it, sort of a sample kit. So each of the people that come will receive a cup. They'll receive some samples of Valley products. Some of it will be baking from Quick Stop. There will be, I think there's some honey going in there, certainly some jam or jelly locally. So it's all products that are created and sold in the valley to kind of give them a taste of what it's about. The meeting last year was held in Roblin, and in Roblin what they got was a reusable shopping bag. So we're trying to just showcase that we have a very vibrant valley. A couple different groups, Spruce Products is one of them, is providing some material to that as well. I don't know exactly what it is, but something from them, just to kind of drive home that we're a very good valley. The funding for that is coming from Rise. It's going to cost about $3,000 by the time we do all of that. One of the interesting things about it that has been discussed amongst the group is that it certainly would be an interesting way to carry on with the accommodation tax. There's been a lot of discussion in the town about whether they should charge that and how to spend it. And so this is kind of a trial run, at least somewhat of a trial run, for how 4 municipalities could work together to take funding like that and make sure to use it to create good events through the valley that would in the end have more people in hotel rooms, plus more sales for everybody in the valley. So it's an interesting thing to see the 4 municipalities work together. We don't always see them all in the same room together, but we did for this, and planning is ongoing. So
That's the same day as our council meeting, but it's over before.
it's done about 3:30.
Okay.
So it should be over well and truly before we're coming here. From what I read, lunch is provided, and I believe it's going to be bison, local bison, and there's also a discussion of it being local lettuce as well. So the whole goal is to, within the confines of AMM, try to make that work. We don't know if the Minister of Justice will be attending, but we do understand that justice officials will be attending that afternoon to host a round table of us. So anyone attending the meeting will have direct input on the justice crime plans for the valley. So that may be of interest to some if you aren't already tempted to go.
I'd like to go, so sign me up.
And hopefully, if anyone can make it, it would certainly be good to, if you can find a way to make it, it'd be good to go. So anyone that is going, we've got one already, but the rest of you, get your intentions into administration as soon as you can so we can get to work for it. 7.3, so this is discussion for council. We don't know if we're preparing a resolution here or not. The May 28th meeting is on the same Tuesday that I'm in Portage for the economic development training. So I'll be away. I can join by phone. Terry is also scheduled to be away that night. So do we want to still hold a meeting? Do we want to move the meeting? What's the will of council?
When are you gonna be back?
I'm gone the entire week. I leave that Monday. I just have to be there at 8 o'clock Tuesday morning. And then I come back on Friday.
You're back Friday?
Yep.
Late Friday?
Like 9 o'clock Friday night.
We're not doing it at 9 o'clock Friday night.
Do you wanna,
Tempting as it may be.
do you,
I'm in bed at 10.
how about 3rd of June?
What's that?
That's the first, no, just wait, that's Monday, 4th of June, I meant.
So we could. That would give us 1 week between those 2 meetings, if
Yeah.
that is doable.
I'd say 4th of June, can we do that? Then we'll have everybody here, right? Neely will be back?
Should be.
Should be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So being moved to June 4th at 7 PM. Be it resolved, the regular meeting of council scheduled for May 28th, 2024 be moved to June 4th, 2024 at 7 PM. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Burick, someone to second the resolution? Councillor McGregor. Any further discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried.
So does that mean we'll still have the one on the 11th?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, that's good.
I'm sure we'll
It'll
have
be
some
busy, it'll be
tough
busy.
night.
It'll be busy, busy spring.
7.4, variation order, public hearing. Whereas the owner of Northeast 233627 West has made application for a variance to the setback as required by bylaw 23304 of the former arm of Swan River. Therefore be it resolved that a public hearing will be set for June 25th, 2024 at 7:15 PM to hear presentation from those interested in the application. Be it further resolved that advertising and notification of the public hearing be made as required by the Swan Valley Planning District. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Blosha, someone to second the resolution? Councillor Burick, any idea who that is?
That's a code.
Oh,
isn't
it's our finance officer.
it?
Yeah, going by.
Financial officer, okay.
This particular variance, there's a copy attached on the private view tonight. It's regarding a shed and how close that shed can be to the property line. So we're following procedure. We have to set it up for hearing, and then we'll have the hearing that night and make a decision.
Good.
Any further discussion on it? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 7.5. Be it resolved that the resignation from the lead hand, Scott Stenberg, be accepted with regrets. As remover. Councillor Kushniryk, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Blosha, I wish it would work to just not pass it, but it doesn't seem to go that way. On behalf of council, we certainly offer our thanks to, I forgot Terry's battery. Offer our thanks to Scott for the work he did with us. It was certainly enjoyable working with him, I think. I had a great time, and everybody else did. It's sad to see him go, but we wish him well in his future endeavors, and hopefully he decides life on the road isn't for him and comes back this way soon. Any further discussion? If nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried.
Excuse me, did you say I forgot to charge the battery?
Yeah, that's
Sounds
what
No,
it
it's
is.
fully charged, it's fully charged.
What's the beeping?
I don't know, but everything froze, my keys froze. Carrie, what happened?
Just give-
There's that, well, that's okay. I'm just waiting, no,
We'll
it's
send
good
tech
now.
support over.
It's good now, no, it's good now.
Oh, sure it is.
It just, I think I got stuck on the resignation one. No, it's, yeah, no, it's good now.
7.6, so a ratepayer concern is attached to the agenda. Because it has the name of the ratepayer in it, we didn't share it publicly, but it's a ratepayer concerned about Road 198. They live on the road fairly close to the junction of Highway 83. They say there's heavy traffic there, but the road is not currently considered a haul route. As such, dust control is not half price. Their request is that we consider making it to the haul road list so they receive dust control for half price. What is the feeling of council?
My feeling, if it's that busy as they say it is, and it's changed, I'd say do it. They still pay half the rate.
Councillor Blosha, how do you feel?
I don't feel as busy as that. Then I guess we gotta give it to everybody else on the road too. That's the thing.
198, if we
It's not that
consider it to
many
be that
houses.
busy, it would be likely from there until the junction of the Durban Road would be the consideration area, right? So it's about
Exactly.
5 mile stretch, give or take, 6 miles. There would be 1, 2, 3 houses that typically do dust control on that area, one more that doesn't, but that might change their mind. So you'd be impacting 3 to 4 residents.
And you start that, and then they're gonna say the Durban line is the same because it's.
Going north up to 83, right?
I don't know what you say, but I've seen this one come across before.
Councillor Zbirun, your thoughts?
Guess if you're living on the road and it's dusty, you'd want to, but again, when we're, like Carrie says, where do you stop? Like, you do this, you do that, you do this.
204 is just as busy.
Our
Any-
cost,
any-
hard cost,
200 is.
200
200
this year?
is, yeah.
our hard costs around 510 to 515, plus the staff time involved in distributing. So, you know, at half price, you know, the 225, obviously, we're kicking in about $200 to do it.
It's not that you don't want to do it, it's just like, where do you stop? Then you offer it to everybody at half price, because everybody's got the same dust. I don't know how to go with that.
Councillor McGregor.
I agree with Councillor Blosha, and it's just kind of be like open Pandora's box, I think. You have to give it to everyone.
If you were gonna do something and you were gonna go half price, it'd be half price plus labor.
Labor is very hard to calculate,
Yeah.
because it's
Oh, we-
probably $5 or $10 of labor. We sell it for $5.50, and we're not trying to make money on that. Part of the extra $25 or $30 there is when we make an oops and we go a little too far at one of those places. You know, we have never yet made money applying dust control. We always lose money at it. We just try to lose as little as possible at it. But every time, you know, every haul road we have now, we lose money on every time we apply there. And even these other spots, you know, an extra 30 feet is enough to eat up that little bit of buffer we have. And there's lots of times we get an extra 10 or 15 or 20 feet just because of the way the application goes. So I don't want anyone to walk away thinking, oh gee, look, they make $35 every time. We really don't. It's just that little buffer to try and keep it within reasonable.
You know, the only thing is they're close to the road. They fixed their yard up very, very nice.
But all of those homes on that line
I'm
are
close,
right
I know,
against
I
the
know,
road,
that's,
all of them.
but I'm just saying, they fixed their yard up
It,
very,
it is beautiful, yes,
know,
it is, yes.
so,
That's
Do they
why-
get calcium every year? They do get calcium, they're just asking for half cost, are they?
I don't know if they actually did. I don't believe they did last year. I'd have to check the records. I don't think they did. Most years they had, but the request is for half price. Now, the other option, I'm not suggesting we would do this, but 4 bags of calcium chloride is about $250, and that's enough to do about 500 feet if you apply it yourself. So, you know, if the person did their own application, you have to time it so it's gonna rain right after you put it there, you have to water. There's a lot to it, right? It's not as easy as us just showing up and spraying it. But there would be a way for them to do some dust control on their own that would be cheaper than what we provide. Just depending on, you know, just as an option. We wouldn't want to be going out and doing it, we're not set up for that yet. Maybe someday we would be set up for dry, but we'll just start this year. Councillor Kushniryk, you've been quiet.
I can see both sides of it. I mean, I agree, they probably are seeing some extra traffic since the Durban landfill closed. But I think if you do this road, you gotta do 198, or 198 and 200. Because they're both seeing that heavy traffic east and west. So I think to me, it's both or none.
You're gonna do that, and then you're gonna go to 204, because it's just as heavy. There's trucks that aren't even, they're not even all farm trucks.
Yeah.
There's guys that live down there that work, their semis are going back and forth. Like, where do you cut it off? I don't know.
So does anyone wish to bring a resolution for this tonight? If we don't, it will stay status quo, it will not be on the list of half price. I don't know if I see support around the room to do it, but if someone wants to bring a resolution and look for a seconder, they can, and we can vote on it. Or, what's the will of the group?
I don't know that area very well. From reading the letter, I'd say we should do it, but I mean, you know what it's like, you know the roads that are around there. You call the shots.
198, as far as maintenance goes, is a road that is scheduled to be maintained more often because of the amount of traffic. It certainly isn't the same importance as that Durban road. You know, Durban road is supposed to be graded every week, whereas 198 should be every week or two. So it's not the busiest road in the area that doesn't offer the half price control. There's certainly that 200 is a similar type of busy. There might be a little less truck traffic on 200 for semis,
Yeah, there
but
isn't
as
as
far
much.
as actual just traffic count, it would be very similar. 198 takes some more semis, but it's not a backwards country road, it's one of the main roads, but it's to date, not necessarily designated as a haul road by any means here.
I don't know, would they get more dust? Like, I mean, the trucks slow down right with that stop sign there, is there more dust in another, like if they just go drive by?
No, well, you have to slow down for the stop sign, so
Oh,
it's not as
definitely.
much dust, and you're just starting out again. I
The
don't know.
only other difference on 198 I know of is quite often we're seeing farm equipment that's in commercial transit, so between dealerships, avoids Benito. So
Oh.
comes to the junction, travels 198, then Durban Road, back to 83 and continues on to Swan River. And you see that fairly common with Pattison and also with Mazer, that they transport around that section to avoid going through Benito with the large equipment. So there would be some traffic from that would be unique, but again, it's also on that Durban Road. So, you know, if you were looking at 198, I don't know how you make the argument of that one, not the other one. It's,
Yeah, because they turned at the old Alpine store and they come in, but
it's a slippery slope.
that's because it's Alpine Road is a pretty good road, actually.
So I'm not seeing anyone jumping up to move a resolution. We'll leave it there for tonight. If you have more thoughts on this, we can revisit it another time. Anyone's welcome to ask for it to come back to the agenda. Failing that, though, we will have staff communicate with the ratepayer and give them the fact that council did not yet choose to add it to that list. 7.7, so this was here for discussion. Some of it's easier discussion, some of it will be harder. You'll see that I put it on Facebook to get some feedback from people in the valley, so we could get some genuine opinions from a bunch of people. And we're talking here about what to do about roads. So I'll paint the picture a little bit. Sarah Lake Road has been completely destroyed this year. There is no other way to state it. There was 300 to 500 loads, full RTAC loads run down that road on the worst possible days for loading that road. There, from the Durban Cemetery to Reel's Yard has been destroyed. There's not a piece of that road that is in good shape. There's a few hundred feet here and there that are okay, but it is practically destroyed. The weight of the trucks has forced the middle of the road up in frost boils. To add to that, Spruce Products attempted to help us by taking a grader up there. That actually made the situation a lot worse because their operator cut the road 6 inches deep, cut through the clay cap, cut to black dirt, mixed the black dirt with the clay cap and the gravel and put it back on the road. And things ain't been good there. We have been doing what we can, however, the hauling continues. So an issue is that Spruce Products is chipping waste spruce up there right now and hauling that out in those Super B loads. I have spoken to Spruce Products. I have spoken to Reels Lumber, fairly extensively to both. It's not a one or the other issue. They share in this because that lumber is brought there by Reels and then Spruce comes and chips it. So it's to do with how forestry works. And honestly, the reason the chipping's happening there in the spring is because other roads where they could do chipping have restrictions on them that keep them from running those weights on those roads. So it's one of the only locations they can go to and chip in the spring. Things were looking pretty good. When we had that one snow, we got off the roads, we were okay. When we got the next snow, we couldn't get it off the roads because the roads were soft already. To take it off would have been to lose all the gravel. So we let a couple inches of snow melt on the roads. But through that whole process, they ran trucks. They're running 10 days on, 4 days off. So the road gets a 4-day break to try to heal, which just isn't enough to dry it out. We've been trying every trick we have up our sleeve. We've been putting 1.5 inch gravel in those frost boils. We've graveled the road, some places 2 and 3 times now. We've spent a substantial amount of money there trying to repair that road, but the repairs aren't even sticking because the road doesn't even firm up before the next truck comes. You know, on some days we're talking about 10 to 20 trucks running that road at full weights. It's probably the worst I've ever seen that road. A lot of that has to do with the spring. It was a very difficult spring for roads. Even the provincial road in that area that is fully restricted has the same thing happening to it. They hauled gravel on it to gravel the road itself and broke through the surface on several parts. So it's not something that would happen necessarily every year. It's not necessarily something wrong with our road. It's the combination of factors. Too much traffic, too heavy, too quick, too early in the spring, and also a year where the frost didn't behave as we normally see it. So the frost boils are worse in the entire municipality, not just ours. I've spoken to municipal folks from Saskatchewan side, similar thing, even down by Melville, the same problem with gravel roads. Frost boils have been really bad. What usually comes up when we talk about these things is what do we do to stop this from happening? We've had this discussion here before. Council's choice before has been that there isn't much we can do except fix the roads after. It's back on the agenda tonight to make sure we give it one more talk, because there's a lot of opinions out there. Some people believe we should be restricting speed limits to 60 kilometers an hour. There's some physics behind that. That at higher speeds, a ground wave is created by heavy trucks that causes the road to soften. Much like when you vibrate cement, the cement gets softer if you vibrate it, and then it sets again. Heavier trucks at speed can do that to gravel roads in certain conditions. There's been discussion of weight limits and weight restrictions. For both of those, while we can make those rules, we have no particularly good way to enforce them. Our bylaw enforcement cannot pull a truck over to weigh it. Our bylaw enforcement can write a speeding ticket for speeding. The only person that can write a speeding ticket is the RCMP, and generally speaking, they're not interested in doing that on gravel roads. Weight tickets can only be written right now by the Department of Transportation folks. They are instructed to not enforce on municipal roads. Not by us, but by their bosses. So they will only enforce on provincial roads, which are those PR 3-digit roads, and then of course the provincial trunk highways 83 and 10. So if we did make the rules, we would have no way of enforcing it other than guessing, gee, that looks too heavy. If we wanted to do rules, then we would have to look at rules that banned heavy transport, period, for a period of time, if we wanted to be able to enforce it. So that if we saw a semi go, they got a ticket for the semi going, instead of us saying how heavy is it. That would be honestly very tough to enforce. It would be, we'd have to have staff out there. We would be, some of the comments I saw was, would you want neighbors to turn to neighbors, and how's that going to work between people? But I want us to have some discussion on that tonight, because I want people out there to know that we're thinking about it and looking at all the options, not just ignoring the problem. I think we all know there's a problem, but I'm hoping everybody can weigh in on what we should do for solutions. If anything, the solution may be what we're doing now, where we try to repair the damage as best we can. Specific to the Sarah Lake Road, the damage is so bad, we may have to dig out portions of the road, geotech the road, and then replace gravel, which could be upwards of $50,000 to $100,000 in repairs if we did the whole thing. It could be more. My personal viewpoint on that, I try not to always share my own view, is that the portion of the road that carries residential traffic should be repaired. The portion of the road that does not carry a particular amount of residential traffic isn't as much a priority for repair. But certainly where we have people there that can't get down the road with their own personal vehicles anymore because the frost boils are so bad. The easy part of the conversation is we have a book. Unfortunately, I only have one copy made. We have to print these, but we're going to print these for all of council and staff. So this is made by some really smart people at the U.S. Department of Transportation, and this book is a complete guide to everything that can go wrong with a gravel road and how to fix it. And you'll find sections in here on frost boils and the correct way of fixing them, on secondary ditches, which we've struggled with in some parts of the municipality, and how to fix them. So I'm going to get you a copy of this in the next few days once we get them printed, so we can all learn more about these roads we have and make sure we're all up to speed on what can be done about them. This book talks about the costs and it talks about options. So it shows you, here's 3 things you could do. Here's the cheapest, here's the best, here's the most expensive. So I think for some of us that'll be old hat, but certainly for me some of this is new information, and I think on council we should all spend some time reading this once we get to the copies, just so that we're more up to speed on it. It's going to make our decisions better here. But with that, we need to go around the table and hear some thoughts on what, if anything, there is to do about these problems this spring. Obviously it's too late to do anything this spring, but if we wanted to do something for next spring, we would have to start doing it very soon so people have reasonable notice.
So what's the Reels and Spruce Products do in the end? You said the Spruce Products sent the grader up there a few times, but in the end, like, the way the road is now, what are they?
They're waiting for us to fix it.
So they're not gonna help in any way? They did the damage and they're not gonna help in any way?
That's accurate.
And like you said, 50 to 100,000.
Depending on how far we go. Like we've put 1.5 inches in. The traffic should stop soon, they're almost through the wood. Once the traffic stops and the road has some time to heal, we got that 1.5 inch worked in, it's gonna firm up, it's gonna be better. This is not damage that's gonna go away in a day or two. This is gonna be all summer of grading and patching and hoping for the best.
See,
The
it's
better
almost-
solution is
almost-
to dig it out and geotech it, but that is not cheap.
Especially from the cemetery to the first
The
stop
highway.
sign. It's
It's
like, you go that morning after they fixed it, looks pretty good. By 3 o'clock, right back to where it was. I check it every day. It's bad.
Does
It's
anybody
almost
live
like-
in there?
Well, on that first stretch, no, but to people that need to get to their homes, they either turn at Nichols and go around, which is not the greatest, that's kind of an old dirt trail road sort of thing. It's not good, and it's not good all the way, like then once you hit that first stop sign, from there to the next stop sign, which gets you to the Eagle, the next, it's bad too, it's bad all the way.
So our choices are either go there and grade it and
But-
say nothing, or go put road close signs up.
It's like not being respectful of our community, you can almost say. Like not just, they don't care, just.
I see both sides of it. There's a lot of men working there, getting wages. It's growing our community. If those guys were on unemployment instead, like, it's hard, I think, for anyone to say, oh, let's just shut a business down. And if we did that, there's no other road to put them on. If we put them, like, they can't go the Durban road, it's restricted through Durban. They could run out to 198 and run all the way around, and we would just destroy 198. They couldn't take that either. There's no other road to put them on. We did have a few of them on the wrong road, so we've helped them out with that and helped them understand that you've destroyed one, we'll just keep you to that one. We're not going to go destroy another one now. But obviously they were upset of how rough it is and how bad it is on their equipment, and it was hard for me to find sympathy for that particular cause when their equipment had caused the issue, but we certainly aren't ignoring the road. We've been out there working on it too.
No, you can notice it, like, every second day it is a little better, but then they're on it again, and by 3 o'clock, it's back to where it was. It's not getting any better, and we're dumping money into it daily, and it's not getting any better, and that's not a solution. So, something has to be done, like, some of the guys that know about roads said that that's 10 years of damage done in one spring.
But how long
10
would they
years
have,
to repair.
how long would they have should have waited before they would have hauled? Like you said, the snow fell, it melted. If they were waiting for a few days or for
3
the
or
long?
4 weeks.
Yeah, it would have to
3 or
be a
4 weeks,
month.
okay.
Just the way the spring happened to go, because we had that first snow, we got it off, and the roads were amazing after that. Probably comes
Yeah.
the winter. We got that second snow just after it finished melting, then it rained an inch, then it rained an inch again. Those roads just never got that finished firming, and most of them are fine now. But that one started having the traffic already then, and the traffic's kept on it.
Yeah,
It
it
never
never
had a
stopped.
chance. And once they'd broken through the surface, at that point, really, there was no point stopping the traffic. Because they're already through the surface. It was gonna be just as hard to fix one way or the other. Yes, Kushniryk. Your turn.
Sure. Well, I did speak earlier at the prior meeting that I was pro speed reduction. I think that would help some. Obviously, there is not feel in our municipality for road restrictions. That baffles me a bit because I know so many other places have it. They have ways they survive. But regardless, if we don't have a feel for that, that's the way it is. I do, however, like something that RMF Dauphin does. So they run a road restriction. I just pulled up their bylaw here again to look at it from April 1st to May 31st. It's not really a weight restriction. It's kind of a use the roads at your own risk. If you do damage, we can bill you up to the full cost of repairs. So if you know it's too wet, you shouldn't be going, you'll wait a day or two. But it doesn't shut you down for 2 months straight. So in this case, they probably wouldn't have hauled when they saw what they were doing to the roads. Their bylaw says first offense is a warning, second from there on they can fine you the cost of repairs. I don't know any other real, it's kind of a happy medium. You know, if you gotta haul grain, but if you know it's too wet, you're taking that risk.
Most farmers do that. They don't wanna put their truck through the muck,
And-
because they're coming home to
And
rinse
most
it
our
off
roads are
anyway.
fine, so
They're
it'll never
not.
apply to them, right?
No.
It won't.
But they don't, and honestly, so just for a couple weeks there, I followed a lot of trucks. They weren't going over 60, 65, so that's not that fast.
No, that's
And that's
not.
loaded, so maybe coming back, they might be a little faster, that's understandable, but honestly, most of the trucks I followed, like I was wishing I could pass.
The complaints I get about trucks are always the same few. But even if you have to move equipment, right, you're gonna think twice. If it's been raining for a week,
Oh,
you
yeah,
might wait to move that equipment. If there's a risk, you're gonna have to pay for whatever you leave behind you. I don't think would have this mess if they knew there was a risk they're gonna get the bill to fix it.
but I'm just saying that they don't go out to wreck the road purposely, and I'm sure these guys didn't either, but they saw what was happening and they should have stopped.
That's why this
That's where I think this would come into play.
I think it's a good idea.
Any other
Well,
thoughts?
it was just, Brad had mentioned the warning. I think that's a fair way to do it.
Prior years, council had received some money from some people for maintenance on that road, about $7,000. It would be in the realm of possibilities, if there's nothing else we're immediately doing, to send staff on a mission to speak to them about a payment. Of at least that much, if not more, to try and recoup some of what this is costing to fix. I think Councillor Blosha unfortunately is right that some sections of that road, short of a track hoe and geotech,
Well, they can't,
won't be
those,
repaired this summer.
those first count, so I drove it today, the first stretch of it, so there's 1, 2, there's 4 spots. Unfixable without digging it out, and that's true. Talking to somebody who actually build roads, you gotta dig them out.
Heading south from the cemetery.
Yeah, right at the cemetery, start there, there's like there's one spot there, then down the little dip, that spot's gotta go, then up, and then when you,
I think the only part
there's
that's
so many
okay
spots.
is kind of the east-west section. Isn't too bad when I was on it last.
There's one
Yeah,
spot
that's right, because it's a little tackier
Yeah.
for some reason, and I don't know why, if it's the sun shone on it a little more, but honestly, those guys weren't going that fast either. It's just they were
Not what the road
so,
looked like that.
they were so weighed down
Yeah.
that they kept pushing down, and then they brought that grader out on that Sunday, and they scraped it all, there was dirt showing. They thought that was our grader. They're like, what the? So anyway, just so everybody knows, that is not farm damage at all. And farm tractors don't even cause that damage.
The damage, like we saw some from farm trucks, they were limited to, the typical rutting we see when it's wet.
Well,
And we graded through it and we
Ruts
carried
like
on.
this, not ruts that we
Yeah.
can stand in.
I took my 4x4 up that road one night and just about lost it. In
Oh,
those holes.
today I had not the new truck, but the old, it was everywhere. It's bad.
Is it still wet?
It's wet, yeah, it's wet. In those holes, it's wet. Because they keep dumping wet gravel on it and they keep going through it.
Can you,
But dumping the gravel, I don't think is the solution right now. You gotta
It
close
needs to be
that road and go around
needs to
it.
stop for a bit.
It needs to.
From what I understand, they're just about done, which will help some.
I didn't need any today, but
did you say you were considering approaching both of them, see if they help out in repairs?
We could have staff speak to them.
I think that'd be a good idea,
But I
but
think
it's,
the one is going to find that repulsive, whereas the other one might be open to the idea.
because,
one will be open,
Yes.
but the other one, you're correct.
like, I'd say that's about the only road that's really having trouble, isn't it? Like, I mean,
It's the only road that bad. There's
That
lots of
bad.
roads
We
that
got-
have some issues.
like Ward
Not
6, there's a
that
lot of
bad.
roads that people haul to the Pioneer Elevator, and they're, sure they hauled when it was wet, they hauled when there was snow, but I mean, sure, little
You get some
greasy.
little bit of running.
Yeah,
But you
but it's
don't get
good.
what happened there.
But that one in particular seems to be shot. So I mean, it's just.
Well, even
really-
even where it meets the PR road, you notice that they've caused that big hole in the road, like, so that's, highways has to fix a big hole that is, it's the damage just caused from the same damage.
I'd say approach them but as far as restrictions, I don't think you can restrict. And speed, like you say, they're going 60 already.
They are, it wasn't, it's not, they're not,
Speeding.
no, like in the winter, the log trucks, they go pretty fast, but.
Okay, so we'll leave it for tonight. Staff will take some direction to speak to them and see if there's an interest in providing some financial help to what has to be done there. We'll certainly be speaking with Public Works more about the plan for some of those worst sections, and then proceeding on with some type of repairs to those sections, because it can't stay like that.
No, somebody's gonna get killed.
Is there a lot of
We don't
residents
even really have it marked.
living up there? Is there a lot of residents living up there or no?
Well,
Besides
there's lots of homes that, yeah, they come
Use that
that
road?
way, yeah.
Okay.
Lots of people use that.
Lots of people live out there.
It's kind of a main north-south road there.
Yeah,
Because there isn't another one, the next one over is blocked, there isn't a road all the way through.
Yeah.
So it's several miles over to the next line. Anything else on that? We'll move on. 7-8, ratepayer concern regarding ditching. I don't have an attachment for you, but I can share this is on Westwind Road, the far west end of Westwind Road. Most of the staff, as well as myself, have been approached by a resident there that's got some extreme concerns about their ditch. They share that 18 to 20 years ago, a ditch was dug, and they feel the ditch is too deep. They're unable to put their riding lawnmower through the ditch to keep it mowed. They're wondering if we would be interested in filling in the ditch in such a way that the riding lawnmower would be able to traverse it and keep it mowed. In case you're not familiar with the particular ditch, I was out there earlier to look at it on your behalf. The ditch is steep. About half the ditch is full of willows. So it would be difficult with the riding lawnmower to mow those willows. They're about 10 feet high. But certainly the ditch could be scrubbed, I suppose, of the willows if it needed to be. There are willows on both sides of the road, so it's not affecting just the one person, it affects the other. And there are some willows right to the stop sign, which arguably should be removed for about 20 feet to allow some better view of the road at the stop sign. Overall, from what I can tell, and I'm certainly not a road engineer, there is a bump in the road. That road westward comes flat for quite a while, and then there's a little hill that comes back down. So the portion of the ditch that's steeper is steeper because the land itself goes up and back down. So if the ditch followed the land, the ditch wouldn't work. It had to be dug to that depth to get it to the next ditch. It appears the water's probably flowing okay there, so the concerns are more of a cosmetic nature. I certainly, when I looked at it, it could be done with a manual mower, but it's not a ditch that would ever be a riding lawnmower. Further down Westwind Road, the ditches are a lot shallower because they don't have that little rise to contend with, and those mostly are mowed through with a riding mower. I can't think of a way of fixing this that wouldn't involve taking 20 or 30 feet of the property to slope it out. You really can't fill the ditch in, and so the water use the ditch. You're all welcome to go take a look at it. Perhaps take a mower with you to try it, if you like. I don't know that, I don't have any recommendation to bring to you on how to fix this, but I did promise the ratepayer we would discuss it at council tonight, because they are fairly adamant that after 18 years of suffering with no riding lawnmower in the ditch, it should be corrected. So I'll leave that with you maybe to go take a peek when you have a chance. It's the far west end of Westwind Road, so it's pretty easy to find. You'll know it when you see a ditch that's not mowed. And if you have some thoughts, I would love to hear them either at the next transportation meeting or bring them back to the next council meeting.
Is it on the north side?
Yes. 7-9, gravel hauling levy. So a couple things at play here. Each year, the province of Manitoba sets the maximum amount that we can charge for transporting aggregate and for mining aggregate. So a resolution is prepared here with the 2024 numbers, but then there's part 2 of it. So do council please, we'll do the resolution first, then we'll sort of discuss the rest. Be it resolved that Municipality of Swan Valley West set the 2024 aggregate mining and transportation fees as follows. The rate per ton for mining, 29.15 cents. The rate per cubic meter at 51.89 cents. For transporting aggregate from March to November, a rate per cubic meter of 11.58 cents. And for January, February, and December, a rate per meter of 5.8 cents. I do have some calculations prepared for you for the English version of, there it is, because we always measure in cubic yards, or cubic yards, not meters. So in 2023, the rate was 14.63 cents per yard. In 2024, it's 15.14 cents per yard, is what those work out to. Our current bylaw actually prescribes a higher rate, but the province now limits what you can charge, so we're simply charging the maximum that's allowed by the province, even though the bylaw says it could be more. Keep from violating the provincial regulations on that. Is there someone interested in moving the resolution? Mr. Kushniryk, is there a seconder? Councillor Blosha. Any discussion on the levies for this year? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. So where it gets more interesting is the received levies. So prepared for council tonight is a report from accounting showing the levies received in 21, 22, 23, and 24. You may note that in 2023 there are 0 levies. In fact, that page is excluded from the report. No one paid the levies in that year. It's not entirely true though. So in the 24, we received 2 payments early in the year of people that were paying the 2023 levies. Campbell Constructions and JTL Backhoe Services both paid their levies that were due. Going back from there, in the 2022 year, I'll draw council's attention to the first 2 levies that were paid in February, again relate to the 2021 year. They were just paid a little bit late, and the remainder of those levies related to the actual 2022 year. So in that year, we collected about $23,000 of levies. Going back into 2021, levy collection there was about $12,000. If you cast your mind to which name you see missing on each and every one of those reports, I did have a conversation with that contractor earlier today about where those levies might be. And they assure me they charged them to their customers, but failed to remit them to the municipality, which is unfortunate. It's my intention that staff will enforce the bylaw that's on the books. A copy of that is attached for you. The bylaw provides that any person who mines or transports aggregate in our municipality is subject to these rates that we set. The reason these rates are set is for us to have the money to repair the damage to the roads from hauling the aggregate. That's why the rate is so much cheaper in December, January, and February, when the roads are frozen and you really can't hurt them at all hauling aggregate. So folks that wish to have a cheaper rate can haul when the roads can't be damaged. Those that haul during the summer, when they do tend to damage the roads, pay for the privilege of doing that. You'll notice there's a mining portion to this as well, and that particular portion relates to if you're mining aggregate in something that is not a crown land. And much of the mining is in crown land, but not all of it. The bylaw provides that in each year, each contractor who's going to haul gravel in our municipality must obtain a license from the municipality to do so, and at that time provide an advance payment of 50% of what they think they will be doing that year. So we have the money to repair the roads during the summer. Then by the end of December, they're required to file their final report and final payment to us. It provides for penalties of $200 for failing to obtain a license and hauling a load, further penalties of $500 per day for failing to get that license or remit your fees. Certainly I'm not suggesting here that we're going to fine anybody, but we are going to have a discussion, a very lengthy discussion with some of our partners who have failed to remit their payments, and remind them of the bylaw, the payments that are owing, and likely suggest that they must provide proof of how much they hauled and how much they charged customers. I wanted to add here that it is extremely unfair for some vendors to charge the fee and remit it, and other vendors to charge the fee and not remit it. If council ever feels they don't want to charge the fee, we would stop the fee for everyone. But a quick check of some people that did deal with some of the vendors that don't appear on the paid list, were promptly charged the fee, because everyone knows it exists. It simply wasn't remitted, and that is not appropriate in any way. If we do run across a vendor that failed to charge the fee in those past years, they'll probably return to council for some advice on what you'd like to do. But the ones that we know that charge the fee, it's time to pay it. Because it's just not acceptable to charge primarily residents in our municipality the fee and not give it to us to fix the roads and keep it for their own pocket. So I'm sure it was an oversight on their part. I can't imagine anyone did that purposely, but we will help them correct that. Let's move to 8.1, Swan Valley Folk Fest Committee. We've received correspondence from them. They are holding Folk Fest this year. They're quite happy about it. They have a grand march set for Friday evening, 7 p.m. to 7:45. They're inviting municipalities and towns to have a representative from the council attend on your municipality's behalf. That particular evening, I am probably not available because I'm still traveling back from Portage. On the June 1st, I'm then committed in Benito. So if we're to send somebody, I would recommend the Deputy Reeve, if that pleases council. Deputy Reeve, please add it to your calendar. Do us proud.
Is that 2 days or 1 day?
I believe it's just the Friday evening.
Friday evening?
Yeah,
7 o'clock.
p.m.
Grand March is Friday, okay.
We'll have staff communicate with these folks and share your names so they expect you.
It says on there you have to wear your suit
So I got
Says that.
I got one suit that,
with your hat.
A tie as well as required.
Well, and it had to be red, it said.
were you reading that? I can't.
Right.
And there's a
Right
nose
in
that you
the-
have to
Oh,
put
yeah.
on as well.
Right in
A
the
large red
yellow.
nose.
Right in the
Oh.
yellow, it's
It's
highlighted.
highlighted, yeah, I see it's highlighted.
You should get some new glasses, Councillor.
I can,
Maybe
yeah.
you'll see what the rest of us see.
can
Never know how to read too.
You can borrow mine.
I think Councillor Blosha added that line in it.
No, nothing, I see it right there.
Moving on to 8.2. This is a letter received from Swan Valley Fire Department, a copy of which is to council. So this is sent into the provincial authorities. There's been a request from Brendan Holdings and Petro Canada, notification, I suppose, of installing a large above ground fuel supply in our municipality. This particular supply relates to the requirements of a farmer. This is listed, I believe this is public information, so it's Shulman Farms. That will be installing fuel capacity in excess of 100,000 liters in the municipality. Because of the size of the installation, that begins to trigger some specific rules we have regarding having that much fuel in one spot. Our point on that is the Swan Valley Fire Department. They've indicated back to Sustainable Development and such that they will be required to follow the fire code requirements, which is standard procedure. So we're not adding anything to this to make it more difficult to do, but they are required to follow the same procedure that, for example, Co-op Bulk Fuels is required to provide. So we'll have to do some additional steps with the fire department to make sure a response plan is in place, ensure the environment is protected, and should anything ever happen there, that we're ready to deal with it. But I wanted to assure everyone we're not getting in their way, we're just following the rules that are there. So that's more for council's information. Anything else on either of those correspondence items? If not, we're heading into unfinished business. So we've got a couple readings of the tax bylaw tonight. This is the one we spoke about earlier and had the public hearing. You'll recall we did one reading then and we left the other two readings for tonight. Be it resolved that bylaw 010924, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the levying of taxes for the year 2024, shall be read a second time. Is there someone to move the resolution? Councillor Burick. Someone to second the resolution? Councillor McGregor. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or changes they wish to propose during second reading? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. Our next resolution. Be it resolved that bylaw 010924, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West for the levying of taxes for the year 2024, shall be read a third time and passed this 14th day of May 2024, and be it further resolved that the bylaw be signed by the Reeve and signed and sealed by the Chief Administrative Officer. Is there a mover for this bylaw, or this resolution, sorry? Does anyone wish to move the resolution?
did I move? I think I moved.
You did the first one. Go on. I see Councillor Kushniryk. Is there someone wishing to second the resolution? Councillor McGregor. Being a third reading of a bylaw, we are recording a recorded vote. Is there any discussion or questions, comments, or changes you wish to propose to the bylaw? Hearing nothing, we'll go into voting. If I could have those voting yes, please indicate first. I've got Councillor Burick. I see Councillor Kushniryk, Councillor McGregor, Councillor Blosha. I'm going to vote yes. Councillor Neely is absent. I've indicated him as such. Councillor Zbirun, I don't think I saw your hand.
No.
Okay. Do you wish to vote no?
Yes, I do.
I have recorded you as such.
Thank you.
So the resolution is carried 5-1 with 1 absent. Nine three. You'll recall, I think, the bylaw to establish a reserve fund for the mitigation of preparedness. This is third reading of it. Be it resolved that bylaw 011024, being a bylaw of the Municipality of Swan Valley West to establish a reserve fund for the mitigation and preparedness program, shall be read a third time and passed this 14th day of May 2024. And be it further resolved that the bylaw be signed by the Reeve and signed and sealed by the Chief Administrative Officer. Is there someone that wishes to move the resolution? Councillor Burick. Is there someone to second the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk. This too requires a recorded vote tonight. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or changes they wish to propose to this bylaw? Hearing nothing, we'll start the voting. And those wishing to vote yes, please show me your hands. No, that was easy. I think I've seen everybody. I saw you as well, Councillor Blosha, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Just making sure. You can put your hand down.
Good.
Actually, no. You can put your hand down.
Poor guy, I think. He might
So-
go a little extra.
Indicated everyone has voted yes except Councillor Neely, who I've indicated is absent. So the resolution is carried 6-0 with 1 absent. That brings us to committee reports and communications. Let's start with Councillor Zbirun.
May the 2nd, Manitoba Rec Center meeting, was mainly just discussed how their fish fry went and the June 1st thing, and that was pretty much it.
The fish fry sounded very well.
Very good, very good. They planned on selling 100 tickets, and for some reason they got 120 printed. And before they knew it, they had 120 tickets sold and people wanting at the door to come in, and they had enough fish and everything went good, and they said this went super, really, really well.
Nice. What do they have planned for June 1st?
Well, I thought they were gonna have a pancake breakfast, but I guess the drop-in center doesn't want them to have one, because if they have pancakes, then people aren't gonna eat as many hot dogs, and the fire department went the same route too. They're not gonna have it either, so that was that. Everybody, I don't think they were too disappointed with it either, like the rec board, because they were missing quite a few members and they were gonna be short-staffed, so they
Should
weren't
they
really
do
that.
anything for that? Are they going to do anything on June 1st? Or?
I think they're gonna have a beer gardens or something like that, but how many people are gonna stick around after they have all their bargains bought is, I guess we'll see, eh?
We'll find out how many want to eat a hot dog, because I
Yeah.
have to go grill hot dogs that day.
Oh,
I got roped into that by the seniors dropping. Anything else?
no, I'm good, that's,
Hey, let's move to Councillor McGregor.
Nothing to report other than crawling up the ladder and fixing the drain spout at the Benito Library, so.
Good job.
Completed my hospital scrubs and my cap on, so.
Very
We
nice.
got her done.
We should have pictures of that. Wow. Councillor Burick.
We had the interview committee, I guess we got together about a week ago or so, I forget the date, but we interviewed for the labor in Benito. So, that's it.
Councillor Blosha.
Yeah, was on the interview committee, we did that. I have no committee meetings to report though, but I do have a ratepayer concern. It's a portion of Road 173. He had asked last year if we could just send the grader down because there's ruts. It accesses about 3 different farm places.
I know the route.
Yeah, and he just wants, and he asked last year and it never got touched. So could we just go down there and maybe there's a few holes. He said, I know I'm exaggerating, they're 3 feet deep, he said, but just maybe fill in, let's send the grader down and see what he can fill in first, and then if we gotta put a little bit of gravel, we put a little bit of gravel in some holes. But he's not asking for a road to be built by any means, but he did ask last year and it never got touched.
It was passed along to public works.
Yeah, I
yesterday.
understand, it was passed along, I know it was.
No, yesterday,
called in.
I'm saying,
Oh, again?
yes.
Okay, because I'm just making sure because he's called me, so.
So do you know the crossroad?
It would be probably where you meet,
It's further.
201.
Oh, yeah,
Be 202.
yeah. Yeah, it would meet the first house there at the,
Hey, so we'll send that off for staff. That
Just see if we
isn't
can-
scheduled for gravel,
it's not,
but
he's not asking for a road to be built by any means, he just wants somebody to go through there, so,
yeah, I've
don't have
been
to
there.
bounce
I
through.
agree.
yeah, me too.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll have that. Someone from staff will be in touch with Public Works.
I was passed along yesterday, actually.
Oh, good.
I have the number too, if anybody needs, but I'm sure if he phoned here as well, then we're good.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Nothing of any excitement.
You should really start doing something around here.
Yeah.
Seeing how Councillor Kushniryk's left so much time.
Here we go.
So a few things I can report on tonight. I attended a library staff meeting. So it was a meeting between the library board and the staff itself. Unfortunately, the library chairperson, Ms. Powell, was unable to attend that night. So the duty to chair fell to me. So I was able to chair the meeting with the staff. We had a great discussion. Spent about an hour with them, and one of the notable things we did was we took the staff through the budget, so how the process works, but also the line items for each thing in the library budget. There've been some concerns from them and maybe some of the public as to what money's spent on. So we went very slowly through it and made sure everybody understood, and gave them copies of the budget as well so they could see it. If anyone here, it's been on our agenda before, so you can go dig it up if you want to see it yourself, but we just did some information on that. Talked about some HR issues in the library with the staff. We also spoke at length about head librarian. To date, the library board has not hired a head librarian. More applications have been coming in. There have been several more interviews done. The board has not selected someone yet for that position, so it remains open at this time. The position is 30 hours a week at $25 an hour, which there was certainly some expression from the staff that wasn't an appropriate number of hours. Because it's hard to attract someone for less than 40 hours a week. So that is going back to the library board for further discussion. There was also some discussion about snow days. There've been some confusion about whether or not the library board pays staff to stay home if it snows. So that was clarified that we do not. If you can't come because of snow, that's unfortunate, but that's can be used as a holiday or something to make up for it. I alluded a little earlier to the AMM planning meeting. I attended that for about an hour and a half before. I admit I left early because it was getting down to the nuts and bolts of whose honey was going to be in the jar, and I wanted to go to bed. But the other members of the committee did well with that after I left, from what I understand. Special note to Councillor Boychuk from the town. She's certainly done a lot of work there with lining stuff up. And I think this will be an AMM meeting that is quite memorable to everyone who attends. So we will be presenting some economic development information there. We'll be presenting some stuff from the school division, how great the school division is, a lot of that local information. So it should be a good meeting. The one thing I haven't touched on yet with it is that justice portion. When the Premier was in town, he certainly made people believe that there was going to be a public meeting with the Justice Department that day. To our knowledge, no such public meeting is booked while the Justice Department will be in town. It is a private meeting with the municipal leaders that we are aware of. We have requested information from them if they intend to do something else that we don't know of. But what we do know of is in the afternoon with anyone who attends as AMM delegates, but won't include general members of the public. So that might be of interest to some. I was here for an interview. I think the other councillors have covered that fairly well. I attended a medical recruitment meeting the evening before the Premier appeared. So we had some discussions there. A couple things of note there. The CT scanner continues on, and the CT scanner, I hope I'm not telling stories of the school, is complete. Testing is complete, the machine is working fine, it is certified for CT scans. It has been for approximately 2 weeks already. So a CT scan could be done in the local hospital at this time. They aren't. They aren't because we're just finishing off the staff training. By we, I mean them, because I don't know how to train the staff. But there's just finalization of staff training being done, and CT scans will begin. There's a good chance the first scan will happen before the end of May. But the timeline is still officially June, so if something goes wrong, there's no disappointment in it. Certainly even the last few days, I've spoken to numerous people who had to travel to Dauphin for a CT scan who just can't wait for that to be available locally. We're also hearing a lot from doctors in other communities that are intending to refer to the Swan River scanner because they think it will be a better experience for some of their patients. So that's good news. I wanted to note also that the particular model of scanner we have is remote control. So this scanner is able to be operated from central control in Winnipeg, wherever they operate. So even in the event of a time where we don't have a fully certified technician here to operate themselves, we're also going to be able to certify all of the X-ray staff for how to place someone in the machine. Once they're placed on the machine, someone from Winnipeg can operate it that has the correct training. So it certainly would make it so the machine is always available for emergent situations. Work is ongoing on conversion of the Swan Valley Health Facility to a stroke facility. So there may be some additional expenses in that, probably not much, but that's being looked into right now because having a CT scanner enables that. But we do need to make a couple changes to the telehealth setup at the hospital to better connect them to the stroke center. There'll be a little bit of staff training additionally for that, but we're well on track, hopefully within the next couple months. So if you're experiencing stroke-like symptoms here, not only can we do the scan here, you can also be treated without leaving Swan River, which will be a major advance. It will be the first time stroke treatment has ever been available in the Swan River Valley without moving the patient. So very good news on that front. Additionally, a doctor is coming this summer. It's a locum doctor that's been here a couple times before. We understand that they're looking for a home community, but they haven't yet selected one. We have agreed as a committee to pay their condo fees while they're here. In exchange, there's a cost for them spending some time with our recruitment committee to explain to us why they should have Swan River as their home base. So we wouldn't necessarily normally pay fees for a doctor to live here, but in this particular case, we thought it was a good exchange because they're looking for a community, they want a rural community, and we certainly want to talk them into this being the one they stay in. So we're going to give them some examples of good reasons why they should stick around while they're here. Immediately following that, the medical recruitment committee went home and the four heads of council met for a planning meeting for the next day's visit with the Premier and the Justice Minister. So we planned for about an hour and a half. Some of that I can't share, but much of it revolved around me saying, and you won't say, and listing off things that they wouldn't bring up at the meeting so we could stay on track with what we were supposed to be talking about. Obviously, when you have 4 municipalities in a room with a minister, there's always a temptation to wander into things that aren't on point for what the communities are after. So we tried to tighten that up a bit. The next day, as you know, the Premier was in town. That made the news most places. The Mayor was able to be seen on the news. I'm sure he appreciated that. I wanted to touch on the meeting with the Premier. And I don't mean this to sound negative in any way, but I think council should be up to date. As you know, we've discussed at length that the 4 municipalities should work together and 4 municipalities should present as the Swan River Valley to all levels of government rather than being a fractured 4 different municipalities thing. It therefore shocked me somewhat to understand that the town of Swan River had agreed to host the Premier without agreeing to have any representatives from the other 3 municipalities present. I expressed that concern to the Mayor in very frank terms. I think we've learned from that. Initially, the Justice Meeting Minister was to be held only with the town of Swan River as well. So that was rescheduled, and all 4 municipalities did attend to meet with the Justice Minister. On the Premier front, And again, I offer no opinion other than stating simple fact. I was in the adjoining room, and I can tell you that the majority of the town of Swan River Council was also precluded from meeting with the Premier. Only 2 members of the council met with the Premier when their whole council hosted them. Obviously, that's a decision for the town, but it was a pretty exclusive few that got to see the Premier. I was a little surprised to see that the whole council wasn't there with an opportunity to at least interact, but that's their choice. I believe, as it was expressed to the other 3 municipalities, if you wish to see the Premier, you should invite him yourself. So maybe a little work for us all to do on that. With the Justice Minister, however, we spent about 45 minutes with him, a very personable fellow, if you know him at all. We spoke about a variety of issues. I relayed to him the story of the Durban Hall AGM and the number of times that we stopped the AGM to watch people buy drugs next door. So the Justice Minister was concerned about that, as you might imagine. That specifically, he is personally interested in seeing that particular drug operation closed. We spoke about the GIS program, and certainly I am not able to share details of what the province may or may not be doing, but we clearly made the request for the province to provide assistance to our valley in a trial program for GIS, where they would pay for some of the cost. It was well received, no decisions have been made, but appropriate people are having conversations now about what may come of that. So certainly it was not a no, but there's nothing announceable at this time. The Justice Minister spoke highly of our community. The next morning, the Premier called the Mayor and expressed to him his pleasure with our community and with how well the municipalities are working together here, and also with the professionalism of the entire visit. So it was nice to hear those words from the Premier. He also attended Louisiana Pacific while he was in town. I've spoken to representatives there who indicate they were extremely happy that he dropped by and showed interest in them. Obviously, they have some legal challenges facing both the government and LP right now with regard to forest rights. They felt it was appropriate for the Premier to come and tour the plant firsthand and understand the number of jobs that are at stake. So most of the LP folks got to see the Premier, and we're happy to share a piece of their mind with him. As a final note to the Premier's visit, I attended the press conference in the morning, and I think this is the first time I've seen a Premier that spent half an hour greeting the crowd after. He took pictures with anyone that wanted a picture, he shook hands, he knelt on the ground when it was kids so that they could be the same height as him. A very, very personable individual, and anyone that came up to that press conference had a chance to shake his hand and tell him what they came for and why he had staffers there to help them as well. So he could hear a little bit of it and then say this person will gladly hear more of it, so they could tell the story and feel heard, which was really good to see. I was quite impressed with the visit. On the Durban Hall AGM front, I did attend the AGM. That was held the evening, a week or 2 back. Besides watching the drug deals go down, we discussed the hall at length. They hadn't held an annual general meeting before, so they were a little rusty on how that should be done. So they didn't have their financials prepared. We talked about it a little bit. At one point they thought maybe that was confidential information, and then they were reminded that they are a community hall board. It's really not that confidential. I expressed to them, similar to what I expressed to Kenville earlier tonight, that we appreciate having them there. If there's things they could have help with, be in touch. We certainly want to hear from them and support them any way we can. I think they'll probably take us up on some of that. We talked a little bit about alarm systems or cameras, if there's something they feel that would be good for them, especially given their current location. I indicated we might be willing to help them out on some of that stuff. So they're going to talk about it as a board and get back to us. Certainly there would be good to know if somebody was in the hall and they shouldn't be. I think that's something, unfortunately, we have to take more and more seriously everywhere in the municipality, making sure we don't have an accident happen that we go a day or two with someone having access to a building they shouldn't have. We shut it down as soon as we can. On the dust control update, I can share that staff tell me earlier today that a little more than 50% of the normal dust control people have been in. Since then, more have been in. The deadline is coming up very soon, in a couple days, so expect to see more. Certainly if you're talking to anybody about dust control, remind them the deadline is coming. We are moving up the dates, if possible, for application. So we're hoping towards the very end of May or very, very early in June to have the applicators here performing that work. To the part of the Pioneer Grain Road, I think Councillor Burick has some thoughts on that. I did attend about a week ago and applied some calcium chloride to the road myself, just to try and keep the dust down a little bit. It hasn't been as successful as it could be. I was out there earlier today. Certainly the portion of the road that's untreated is very dusty. The portion of the road that's treated has much less dust, but it's not dust-free. I don't know if Councillor Burick, you want to add more to that?
Well, no, I checked it out too before coming because I had asked you this morning and you said some has been applied or whatever, but it is a little dusty, but it's just that I was kind of disappointed it wasn't done earlier because we had a transportation meeting April 5th and I made it clear to the lead hand, end of April, beginning of May, ready to go. Well, he was done on the 10th of May and nothing was done until the 10th.
We'll probably have to take that in camera.
Yeah, but like I say, is there anything else going to be done or that's it? Till the application is coming in, like you say, end of May or beginning of June?
Right.
So nothing else is going to be done right now?
Let's send that in camera as
In
well.
camera, okay. Okay.
I believe that brings me to the end of my report. Do you have anything you want to add?
I can't think of anything.
I will note this evening, and sometimes I've noted it before, but today I was annoying the staff quite well in pretty much everybody's offices asking for things, and they did extremely well. Some of the information tonight that we've presented is new and different to us, but the staff have all helped out, and everybody in the office is doing a great job of working together and getting that for council so that we can better understand the municipality and better plan, which is very good to see.
And we stand in line very patiently waiting for the printer.
I only printed one copy of that book, and every single person in the office came to wait for their document while I was printing it, which is why there's only one tonight. I'll come back some other day and print more.
To come back at midnight.
Perhaps.
Set it to go.
Fire restrictions, anything said about that?
So a few weeks ago, we had the fire chief for Swan Valley ask if we want to do fire restrictions. About 24 hours later, it poured rain, so it didn't seem like it was a huge deal right then. I haven't heard him ask again since, and things are starting to green up. We haven't restricted burning at all yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if we will. Do you have thoughts?
No, I just, I had a couple of people ask me whether, and I said, well, I said, we got a permit, you know, last week or something, so, and I haven't heard nothing, no text or anything came to.
No, there's been no restrictions. The permit process obviously is important for people to get the permit. Permits are free, but part of the permit is telling us where the fire is and how to contact them. So a couple things happen there. If we do have to ban burning, we phone those people and tell them stop burning. You're not allowed to anymore. But the other part is if there's a dispatch for the fire department, they cross-reference where they expect the fire to be. And if the fire is where it's supposed to be on the permit, they call the permit holder and say, do you have a fire and is it controlled? And if the answer is yes, they will cancel the response instead of attending. So it saves a bunch of wasted responding. And, you know, people always have their best interests in heart, but sometimes you have someone drive by on a highway that's not from a farming area and they see a fire in a field and they call 911, not realizing there's a farmer there burning quite well properly. So that's kind of the secondary part of it. Any other questions, comments for anybody tonight? Hearing nothing, we're going to take a break for about 10 or 15 minutes. We'll get set up for the in-camera session after that. We'll be discussing tonight a few things. We've got some HR matters. We've got a bunch of applications in the Public Works Department. We'll talk about that. A little bit of union news. We haven't had that for many months. We'll have some union news tonight. Brief update on a lawsuit that may or may not be filed. We've got some stuff to share with council about that. And I think if things go well, that might be all we have to discuss in camera. Save that little bit of dust control issue.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it turns
Well,
out.
there'll be a few other things maybe.
Oh, gosh.
Gotta be here till 11 o'clock anyway. It's gotta be here till 11 o'clock.
All right, we'll be in recess for about 10 or 15 minutes till everybody's back. Meredith. So we'll move to section 11 on the agenda. Be it resolved that pursuant to section 1523, the Municipal Council shall meet as a committee of the whole. Close the meeting and continue discussion in camera regarding personnel matters, negotiations, preliminary discussions, unresolved legal matters, and not an ombudsman report. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick and Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried.